A gigantic steel-bodied giant that rules the oceans. His ship, HMS Queen Elizabeth R08, is the largest warship in the history of the British Royal Navy. Alongside nuclear weapons, aircraft carriers are usually one of the key elements of major powers. But is this iron giant truly a symbol of Britain's power? Or is it just an expensive project that some people call a chocolate teapot, and the money spent on it has brought no benefit to Britain? Hello. To you all, I'm Elias Farkham, this is Persian Trend, and in this video we're going to take a comprehensive look at the Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier from start to finish. The construction of this massive ship is a story of 9 years of relentless effort. The project was announced in 2007 to replace the old Invincible class carriers. Its construction began in 2009, with its hull built in several factories across the UK and assembled at the Rosyth shipyard in Scotland. This carrier entered service in December 2017, and her sister ship, Prince of Wales, entered service in November 2019. Each carrier, with a displacement of 65,000 tons, or according to some sources, 72,000 tons and a length of 280 meters, is not only the largest warship in Britain, but also one of the most complex floating structures in the world. But aside from these specifications, the cost of this carrier was staggering. At first, they thought it would be finished with £4 billion for both carriers, but by 2019, this figure had risen to over £7.5 billion. Now imagine in Britain, where 22% of people are considered poor, 6 million people live below the poverty line, and about 4 million can't even afford food and shelter. How much could this huge sum of money have helped them? Many critics say that instead of building this carrier, they could have spent the money on domestic issues. This project is really under the microscope. For comparison, France's Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier, although very powerful, is 40% smaller than this one. But since France only has one carrier, when it goes in for maintenance, they basically have nothing available. But the British played it smart and built 2 carriers, so at least one of them is always ready. A very important feature in the design of this carrier is its twin islands. For the first time in British history, an aircraft carrier has been built with 2 control towers. So why did they build it this way? Let's go beneath the skin of the ship into the engine room to see what's going on. This carrier and its sister ship each have 2 separate engine rooms that are quite far apart from each other. They did this so that if one of the engines fails or gets damaged, the other one can still power the ship. This idea comes from World War II, when HMS R08 was sunk by just 1 torpedo because its engine room was destroyed. On Queen Elizabeth class carriers, if one propulsion system is destroyed, the other can save the ship. But in the meantime, the British faced a major challenge. Each propulsion system needs its own exhaust pipes. These pipes, which are 2.4 meters in diameter, can't be bent and have to go straight up from the engine room. These were hidden inside the islands themselves. The engineers had 2 options: one tall unified island like the old carriers, or 2 smaller islands. After careful consideration, they chose the twin islands. Why? Let me explain 5 advantages of this design and one of its challenges. Number 1, a larger deck area. 2 smaller islands take up less space. The space between them is used to install aircraft elevators, which dramatically increases the efficiency of the deck. The second point, smoother airflow. Air turbulence is the enemy of flight operations. 2 small islands create a more stable airflow over the deck, making takeoffs and landings safer. The third point, a wider field of view. The forward island is close to the bow. It gives the bridge crew an exceptional view, especially in crowded waters. The aft island, which is dedicated to flight control with its massive 3-meter windows, provides a 290-degree view of the deck and makes guiding the pilots easier. The fourth point, direct radars. The main radars are placed on separate islands to reduce signal interference and increase radar accuracy. The fifth point, simpler construction. The twin islands are built as separate units in the factory and then installed on the ship, which makes the construction process faster and more efficient. But let's move on to the challenges of twin islands. The biggest difficulty is the physical separation between the command bridge, which is the forward island, and flight control, which is the aft island. For launching and landing aircraft, precise coordination of the ship's speed and heading is essential. In older designs, these two teams were in the same location, but now they have to coordinate through internal communication systems. This requires practice, but on the other hand, if one of the islands is damaged, the intact island can take over the duties of the lost one, which is a major advantage in wartime. This design has turned the Queen Elizabeth class carrier into a work of art that blends military power with engineering beauty. You might ask why, despite Britain being the inventor of the angled flight deck, this carrier has a straight deck? The answer lies in the aircraft launch and recovery system of this carrier. It's a story of tough decisions and engineering compromises. Aircraft carriers around the world use 3 different systems for aircraft operations. Number 1, catapult. Aircraft are launched using a catapult and land using arresting cables. This system allows for carrying more fuel and weapons and enables longer flight range. Even heavy aircraft like AWACS can operate using this method. Francis Charles de Gaulle is the only non-American carrier that can operate American aircraft like the F-18 using this system, a capability that British carriers do not have. The next topic is stow bar. Aircraft are launched using their own power with the help of a ski jump ramp, and they land using arresting wires. This system is cheaper, but only aircraft with powerful engines can use it, and their weapons range is more limited. The third method is stowville. Aircraft are launched from a short runway with a ski jump ramp and land vertically. This method doesn't require an angled deck and frees up more space on the deck. However, aircraft like the F-35B, which are designed for this system, are more expensive and complex. They also carry less fuel and equipment. They have lower speed and their maneuverability is more limited. But why doesn't Queen Elizabeth have an angled arch? An angled deck allows for simultaneous takeoff and landing and provides greater safety in case the aircraft misses the arresting wires. But the Queen Elizabeth uses the stowville system with the F-35B, which due to its vertical landing capability doesn't require an angled deck. This choice was the result of engineering compromise. This carrier was designed to support the F-35, which comes in 2 versions, the F-35B and the F-35C. Initially, the British carrier was supposed to support both versions, and space had even been allocated for installing a catapult. In 2010, the British government decided to equip at least one of the carriers with the catabar system, which required an angled deck. But since the carriers use gas turbines and diesel engines and lack steam engines, traditional steam catapults were not suitable. The only option was electromagnetic catapults, which at that time were extremely expensive. They cost about £2 billion per carrier, and more importantly, they were unreliable. In 2012, due to high costs and potential delays, the government reverted to the STOVL option. This decision reduced costs, but it came at the price of using the F-35B, which has more limited capabilities. In contrast, the Charles de Gaulle, equipped with American steam catapults, is capable of launching heavier aircraft and cooperating with American carriers, but it also bears higher maintenance costs and greater complexity. The lack of catapults deprived the Queen Elizabeth of the ability to use the F-35C, which can carry more fuel and weapons. The question is, will the Queen Elizabeth ever be equipped with catapults and an angled deck? The British Navy has always been interested in catapults, and with the advancement of EMALS technology, which will be used on France's future carrier, this possibility exists. The necessary space for this equipment has been planned for on the carrier, and with its 50-year lifespan, future refits may make this upgrade possible. Even the emergence of military drones that require catapults and arresting cables strengthens this decision. Currently, the British Navy has increased the landing weight of the F-35B to up to 2,000 pounds using the rolling vertical landing technique. However, this method requires highly skilled pilots. Charles de Gaulle, due to the limitation of being a single carrier, is out of service during maintenance, whereas Britain has solved this problem with 2 carriers. Charles de Gaulle is powered by a nuclear propulsion system with 2 K-15 reactors, providing unlimited range, up to 5 years without refueling, and rapid acceleration from 0 to 20 knots in 4 minutes. However, it needs refueling every 7 to 10 years, and its design has faced many challenges. Queen Elizabeth, on the other hand, is powered by 2 Rolls-Royce MT-30 gas turbines and 4 100-megawatt diesel generators, reaching speeds of over 25 knots, which is less than the Chinese carrier Fujian or the American carriers Gerald Ford and Nimitz. The non-nuclear propulsion reduces cost and complexity, making it possible to build 2 carriers, unlike France, which has only 1 carrier. Despite their remarkable capabilities, these carriers have faced harsh criticism. The first issue is the shortage of fighter jets. Britain has only 30 F-35s, which is not enough for 2 carriers. This number is shared between the Navy and the Air Force, and at times the US has had to supply F-35s, which highlights the country's logistical weakness. The next issue is the fragile British defense. These carriers lack defensive missiles and rely on escorts for protection against anti-ship missiles. And this is where the shortage of escort ships makes them vulnerable. The third issue is technical problems. The Prince of Wales has spent 33% of its service time in repairs. This includes a propeller shaft defect in August 2022, which cancelled its trip to the United States. Queen Elizabeth was also halted in February 2024 due to propeller shaft coupling problems. These incidents have led some to call these ships useless or even chocolate teapots. However, their supporters believe they reinforce Britain's strategic position in the world. Now that this giant is ready, its spirit lies in the hands of its crew. Nearly 1,500 sailors, marines, and pilots, from enthusiastic young recruits to seasoned veterans. They embark on a 4-month mission at sea to turn this ship into an unparalleled force. The main goal is to test the advanced F-35 fighter jets, whose stealth technology brings the ship's offensive capabilities to their peak. Each carrier can normally carry 24 F-35s and up to 36 in emergency situations, along with Merlin helicopters for early warning and support. Commander Jerry King, who was previously MS R08, says that when the F-35s are integrated with this carrier, no place in the world is out of our reach and no challenge will be greater than our capabilities. But this path is full of difficulties. From technical failures to external threats, at any moment something could get out of control. Queen Elizabeth's first voyage was an adventurous journey that began in Portsmouth. The destination was the east coast of America, where 2 F-35 fighter jets landed on the deck for the first time. This moment was a turning point in British history. but the path to reaching it was filled with excitement and danger. When the ship was ready to depart, the crew gathered on the deck. Helicopters were lined up beside it, and the Royal Marines Band was playing an epic tune. This scene was a manifestation of pride and readiness. But just a few hours after leaving the English Channel, a thick fog enveloped the ship. Suddenly, a menacing shadow appeared on the horizon. It was the Russian warship Admiral Makarov. Equipped with anti-ship and cruise missiles, this vessel was one of the most advanced ships in the Russian Navy. The crew of the Queen Elizabeth were ordered to minimize all electromagnetic emissions so that no signals would reach the enemy. This moment showed that even in waters close to home, threats are always lurking. In 2021, Mission 21 took this vessel to the heart of the Indian Ocean and the Indo-Pacific, where it participated in joint exercises with the United States, Japan, India, and others. Most importantly, during Operation Shader, the F-35s from this carrier carried out precise strikes against ISIS in the Middle East, which has been the ship's only combat operation to date. Life on the Queen Elizabeth is like living in a floating city, but a city where sunlight is rarely seen. Below deck is where the crew work and live. The atmosphere is similar to that of a submarine. Some sailors say, "We didn't sign up for a submarine, but it feels like we're living in one." This carrier is equipped with over 225 miles of piping, advanced systems, and storerooms filled with supplies. For this journey, the crew loaded 70,000 onions, 25 tons of potatoes, 1,500 chickens, and beef equivalent to 9 whole cows. With a limited budget, the cooks have to prepare a variety of nutritious meals for 1,500 people. One of the cooks says with a smile, "We work magic with this budget." But life on the ship isn't just about food and work. Danger is always lurking. One day, a fuel leak from the airplanes in one of the sections caused panic. The fuel vapors, which are highly flammable, could have caused a disaster with just a single spark. Emergency teams sprang into action quickly. They contained the leak and neutralized the danger. This moment showed that even the smallest mistake in this environment can be deadly. This ship never travels alone. On this mission, the frigate Menmos, equipped for hunting submarines and air defense, took on the role of protector. Advanced Merlin Mark IV helicopters for commando operations and Mark IIs for hunting enemy submarines accompanied this ship. Communication between these units sometimes encountered problems. When the ship's radio systems failed, the crew resorted to traditional methods like light signals and flags. It's like going back to the age of Nelson, but in the modern world, these methods still save us. After 3 weeks of traveling across the Atlantic Ocean, the Queen Elizabeth arrives at Mayport Harbor in Florida. Entering American soil was a historic moment. The crew, dressed in tropical white uniforms, stood on deck in a naval-style parade, a symbol of the bond between the two nations. But when the crew went ashore for some rest, the controversies began. 6 sailors were arrested for inappropriate behavior and alcohol-related altercations. One sailor was even detained for jaywalking, and his story was broadcast in the British media, creating a negative image of British service members among the general public. Commander Kidd calmly said, "Out of the 5,500 who went ashore, only 6 made mistakes. That's not a bad statistic." He believed that, although unfortunate, this incident would bring the crew closer together, like a family that unites in the face of criticism. The greatest test for the Queen Elizabeth was on the way, the landing of the first F-35 fighter jet on the deck. This fighter jet, the most advanced warplane in the world, was supposed to be the beating heart of the carrier. But this task was not easy. The deck of this carrier had never undergone such a test, and no one knew whether it could withstand the heat and pressure of the F-35 engines. Nathan Gray, a Navy test pilot, was in charge of this historic mission. With 20 years of experience, he knew this moment could be the pinnacle of his career. The appointed day arrives. The deck crew carefully cleared away every bit of debris. Even a small screw could destroy the F-35 engine. The Foxtrot flag, signifying fixed-wing aircraft flights, was raised on the British carrier for the first time in a decade. 2 F-35s flew from Peterson River Base toward the carrier. Nathan calmly guided his aircraft toward the deck. He gradually reduced speed, hovered, and then, in a moment when everyone was holding their breath, landed successfully. Joy and cheers swept across the deck. The deck was intact and the fighter performed flawlessly. A few minutes later, Nathan carried out the first F-35 launch from the carrier. This moment was a great victory not only for him but also for the British Navy. Commander James Blackmore said, "We are back. This is the real beginning for the British Navy." HMS Queen Elizabeth is set to remain under the control of the Royal Navy for the next 50 years. A carrier that is meant to be a symbol of the nation's power and one from which the British hope to create many epic stories. But what do you think? In your opinion, is the Queen Elizabeth carrier really as effective as it is advertised, or as the British would like it to be? Can it truly be influential in wars with the current system it has? Or do you, like me, think that they need to make some major changes to this carrier soon so it can be as effective as the French and American carriers? I read all the comments and will respond to them as much as possible. Until the next video, take care.